Thank you, Dean Filizzola, and it's great to take my mask off. It's a great honor to welcome our first year PhD students and their families to this year's lab coat ceremony. And it is a particular joy for me to see everyone here, what I say IRL, my new favorite acronym, in real life. This is an amazing milestone for us. It also happens to be, I think, the first official ceremony of the newly renovated Goldworm Auditorium, work on which was completed February 2020. So we're finally using it. Yes. Now, of course, we're not back to the old normal. We're still wearing masks and struggling to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. But in my view, perhaps this is the new normal, getting back to a productive, rewarding, enjoyable, socializing life in the face of a virus that is likely to be with us for many years. After all, the influenza virus is still with us 100 years after the 1918 pandemic, which, despite annual vaccinations, which began in the 1930s, still kills on the order of 30, 40, 50,000 people each year pre-pandemic. We need to learn how to live and thrive despite the presence of COVID-19. And this is, of course, all the more possible because of the spectacularly safe and effective vaccines developed in record time, and vaccines that are far more effective than the best flu vaccines. Now, in the interest of carrying on in the spirit of the day, this is all I'm going to say about COVID-19. I think that also deserves a round of applause. And focus my remarks today instead on why you're here, pursuing a PhD degree, a Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Sciences or Neuroscience. We hold this lab coat ceremony, it's one of the few in the country that do so, because of the crucial importance of the nation's biomedical research enterprise to our health and economy, and the unique responsibility that each of you will take on once you complete your training. Have any of you ever wondered why you are working toward a Doctor of Philosophy? I received my PhD in 1982, long before all y'all were born, and my research focused on the role of protein phosphorylation in the nervous system. I took only one college course in philosophy, but enough to know that what I did for my PhD had absolutely nothing to do with philosophy. Rather, my work, like most of yours, is empirical research in which we formulate hypotheses, test them experimentally with wet or computational approaches, revise our hypotheses, and so on. This is not today's philosophy. The word philosophy is derived from the Greek philosophia, or love of wisdom, and concerns itself as a discipline in modern times with fundamental questions of our humanity, especially the nature and meaning of our existence. Why then, all across the world, do scientists receive doctors of philosophy? I was always curious about this, so in preparation for today's remarks, I actually did some research, which I'll share with you. The ancient Greeks and Romans used the term philosophy far more broadly than we do today to encompass all knowledge, including physics and biology, which described their natural world. And this broad view of philosophy stuck for many centuries. As just one example, Isaac Newton's classic work on motion and gravity was entitled Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, published in 1687. Another interesting historical perspective is that through the Middle Ages, scholars in Europe received Bachelor of Arts degrees after 3 to 5 years of study, very similar to the way we do things today. Then were advanced to a Master of Arts after 7 years of study. Most individuals, even those who spent their entire lives in the academic world, did not advance further. Isaac Newton, for example, never advanced past a master's degree. Doctorates would only be given on rare occasions, especially to senior figures based more on reputation than any body of scholarly work. more akin to our use of honorary degrees today. The first such PhD was conferred in 1150 by the University of Paris. The evolution of PhD degrees to denote substantive original scholarship didn't occur until the early 19th century, a little over 200 years ago, arising primarily in Germany, when PhDs were first awarded for advanced work across areas of inquiry as diverse as arts, history, science, and mathematics, retaining that early Greek notion of natural philosophy, encompassing all knowledge. This new convention caught on in other countries, in the US in particular, which in those early days sent many of its best scholars to Germany for PhD degrees. By the mid-19th century, the PhD degree itself was imported to the US, with the first American PhD degree awarded in 1861 in physics by Yale University. The practice was quickly adopted by Harvard, of course, then across the US, and eventually back to Europe and elsewhere. Today, the PhD, some UK schools give D.Phils instead of a PhD, is awarded across all disciplines, across all 6 inhabited continents. Now, we know that distinguished traditions of advanced learning existed across the globe, particularly in Asia, over many centuries, but today's conventions in higher education practiced universally are based on these European and American roots. One final observation. Today, all fields use the PhD with very few exceptions, most notably theology, medicine, and law, which give their own doctorate degrees. This too derives from history. The universities of medieval Europe were divided into 4 faculties: a faculty of theology, faculty of medicine, faculty of law, and faculty of arts. The first 3, theology, medicine, and law, were called the higher faculties, much more prestigious, and the faculty of arts, which included the sciences, were considered less prestigious. This was just based on prejudices of the times. It's interesting that by the turn of the 19th century, theology, medicine, and law were far less scholarly. Training was more in the form of apprenticeships and practical knowledge, essentially representing guilds, a tradition that continues to this day. Just by comparison, the rigor in your graduate school courses will be far greater than the rigor in medical school courses. In contrast, the study of everything else, in contrast to theology, medicine, and law, grew with tremendous depth and maturity. And faculty of arts became faculty of arts and sciences, again around the early 1800s, and that for well more than a century, PhDs have played the dominant role across all scientific inquiry. And I'll just give you one example. Most winners of the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine are PhDs, as are, of course, virtually all winners in other disciplines. So despite the curious name that we have for our degrees, we should all take tremendous pride in what a PhD represents today, in contrast to its more humble beginnings. In working toward your PhDs, you are at the pinnacle of advancing scientific knowledge, which is more important today than ever before as we seek to better understand, treat, and increasingly prevent disease. As you all embark on your graduate student careers, get yourselves into labs that enable you to reach your potential and make your lives productive and happy. I consider myself one of the luckiest people alive because every day I love going to work or I run a lab, get to work with young people like yourselves, and pursue science, my life's passion. I hope that each and every one of you use your PhDs for an equally rewarding and enjoyable career. Congratulations and thank you.